Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. It is the 18th. Still in really slow news flow, kind of tight overnight. Let's come over and look at the chart. We are just below all-time highs. Current price 33.85 on the futures. All-time high 33.97.5. That's an intraday high, not a closing high. Mostly up overnight. We've got a bunch of big box retailers coming out today. Walmart, Home Depot, I believe. Let's see here. What else have we got? Mostly Walmart, Home Depot. Anyways, results pretty good. So yeah, there was a little initial move up there. Came down, some weakness in the European stocks, but then ultimately higher. And again, not like a lot of serious macro news happening overnight. So treasuries, on the other hand, continue their small march upwards. One of the things that I should note in the treasuries is that we got the report on how different foreign entities have been handling their treasury positions. And China has continued to pair their investments in U.S. treasuries. And that was probably a significant factor behind the, selling here. I don't know timing-wise. I wish I knew more about how those entities work, when they would do it and why, so that we could try and predict what they're doing. But if they were selling, that might be why we came down here throughout the month of August. Or sorry, I guess it was mostly July, right? Well, there were some selling days in July as well. But the trend looks up for now, and it kind of seems like they want to recover this big drop that we had. So we'll see. When we come over here, let's just look at some spreads a little bit. We continue to flatten a little bit over here. 2s and 10s definitely flattening. Gold up overnight. Gold pushing out. I guess when I was in the shower, it was below 2,000, but I guess we're above 2,000 now. That is just looking unstoppable. I'd be careful. Again, we get this thing where, like, when bad stuff happens, the gold just sells too. But long term, this thing looks like it's up, and the fundamentals seem to support up. Oil yesterday did finally end up closing higher. That was the close. I guess we need to come in here and like roll, don't we? Oh no, I'm already on October, so I think we're good. Double check here. Okay, yeah, we're good here. Currencies, coming back to the currencies. A little jump in the euro here. Little jump in the euro, and the dollar just continues to get creamed. Yesterday we were at 93, and now we're pushing 92. So that's supportive of equities. I think that the foundation fundamentals here do seem to support us moving to a new time high at some point, but they seem awfully reluctant to do so in equities. And then we should come back over here. Last thing is Bitcoin. Yesterday they moved up to 12.5 and they're pulling back a little bit. I'm seeing a lot of interesting cumulative delta changes, overall negative. So I think that people are passively building contracts for a higher, but that may end of next week. So keep an eye on that. Okay. And I apologize. I was a little late. I did not set up schedule the stream I was having some network problems and I forgot to fix them. So we should fix these network problems, eh? I set it up to try and kick the kids off of the internet at night, and that seemed to work, but mm, 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 mm. Oh man, I've got so many devices on my internet. Everett iPad. I'm gonna change it just to be him. Just to be him. Go into the settings. Let's see here. It was under content filtering, right? Block services. Let's delete that one. Add one. Let's see here. He was 10, right? He's 10. Okay. We'll try that. So what happens is I had it set to like block all traffic coming out of the router at night, and that screwed up the DNS. So then all of my my light runs off of the Wi-Fi. My light was screwed up. Let's see here and apply. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way. Donald Trump, many thousands of people. Wait,
L.
hold on.
Fozzie Bear says, what do you mean by passively building contracts on BTC? And watch out for what next week with the Delta.
Yeah, well, so the whole thing is that when you look at cumulative delta, you've got to realize that even though it's a moving on certain delta, that there's two sides to each of those trades. So if the cumulative delta is net selling, but we see people moving up, so when I look at this chart right here, make it a little bit bigger for you, you can see here. Let me grab my pen. Okay, so just remember, cumulative delta is all market sells, or all market buys minus all market sells, right? Okay, so you see you get this thing right here. Okay, people buying up through that, right? Now this right here, not as strong cumulative delta, but it moved up significantly. So there's could be two reasons that could happen. One is that the Bitcoin futures were just chasing moves in the rest of the Bitcoin market, which is really, really likely, right? But the other thing to that is that maybe they're just using passive orders. So how is it that you can get cumulative delta selling all the way through here and net buying all the way through here? Well, it's probably because the people that are going long are playing on the passive side. I mean, it has to mean that. It means that they're putting limit buy orders. So essentially, what's going on is you've got these guys that are building these huge long positions passively. And those guys probably are going to want, they're building it here in this 820 contract. So they're going to want to be, if you're building a position that big and everything, yeah, you're going to want to wait for expiration. So these guys want Bitcoin to be around here, probably around the 1200 area, until next Friday, which is when the futures close. So that means that short term, our forecast for, well, what if you want to call it that, we should be looking to see Bitcoin stay here or higher, right? In anticipation of the close. But then after that, anything could happen, right? That's what I mean. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so let's go and see if there was anything interesting overnight on Twitter. Well, that was pretty quiet. It really looks like people are just really okay. Foreign net buyers for the first time in 3 months. Interesting. China sold, but overall it was net buying, which was interesting. Overall, though, it's pretty quiet overnight. Jeffrey Gunlock. When Harris laughs, it was a debate. In attempting to explain away her attacks on Biden in the primaries, she is clearly saying, don't you realize this is just a game and all I was doing was playing it? Jeffrey, he is a smart guy. Very unconventional thinker, I think, but a smart guy. Donald Trump on the tweet. Many thousands of people work for our government. With that said, a former disgruntled employee named Miles Taylor, who I do not know, never heard of him, said he left and is on the open arms fake news circuit, said to be a real stiff. They will take anyone against us. Okay. Now they're going to go back and it's going to be like all the times that Donald Trump talked about this guy or something like that. Trade Station, you can trade stocks on Trade Station? Is that true, guys? They're talking about it in platforms and brokers because Thinkorswim was ugly yesterday, very ugly yesterday. And I'm like, I wouldn't trade Thinkorswim for futures, but like if you want everything in one spot, you want to trade stocks and options and everything, they're probably like your best choice. It's like them or Interactive Brokers. There's not a perfect choice there. Rand is saying, though, that you can do TradeStation. I hear good things about TradeStation, so. Remember that TradeStation, they were the first ones to come in and be like, oh, look, here, we can backtest this strategy. And kind of started showing that a lot of stuff that people were trading off of was nonsense.
L. Fozzie Bear says thanks, Seth. Awesome explanation and very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm trying. I have to say I have like mixed feelings about Bitcoin because when I look at the fundamental drivers right now, I can see a case for Bitcoin to move up. Like the thing is that Bitcoin doesn't have to move, right? There's no fundamentals don't impact it directly. It only impacts Bitcoin in as much as people will speculate on it, right? Which is to say, like if the US dollar falls, okay, you can buy the euro because that means money is moving over to the euro, right? But does that mean that you can buy Bitcoin? Well, the only reason that you would buy Bitcoin is because people are speculating, right? There's not like a huge industry that has to move their money somewhere and they move it into Bitcoin. It doesn't work like that, not yet at least, right? And you can move it into the euro economy because you can say, here's an economy, and here's an economy, and here's where they're going, and therefore I want to move my money here or there, right? Bitcoin is all speculation. But that said, the speculation is very clear that it's speculation against central bank easing. So if everybody's going to be super easy, then the fundamentals support speculators coming into Bitcoin and buying up price. Not to mention that you got David Portnoy over in it pushing it as well. But from a valuation perspective, and when I evaluate it, I'm looking at how much volume, what the price is compared to how much is actually being transacted on the network. And when you look at how much is actually being transacted on the network, it still remains very, very low. And so this looks to me like something that's been pumped up or manipulated or in some form. So it's kind of like you kind of got this divergence,
Sunday Driver
right?
says gold up, silver up.
Yeah, gold is up okay. Well, they're up about. They were like $50, right? Yesterday it was. It was kind of more of a later day move, yeah. When they moved from 60 to 92. But I don't know if so for today. I didn't really say, but we're still in August, right? So I'm not too sure if we're going to get huge moves today. But that said, it's kind of like a Tuesday. Well, we had housing starts and housing permits, right? Housing starts and housing permits were both well above expectations. Building permits was 18.8% versus 3.5%. But we're back to this, like,
Evo
it's
Severance
likely
says
to
you
just
had
be
same
really good.
situation with passive buyers or price absorption on natural gas.
Oh, really? Well, I'm noticing that that
Evo
seems to be
Severance says
the
now is burning out.
that that
Vlad
that
Stolyarov
seems to
says
be the
people move
default
out of
mode.
big cities, buy new suburb houses.
Oh yeah, that's
Sunday Driver
probably why I
says until
bought.
crypto simplifies things for regular people, it will never go mainstream.
Um, Man, I was all over the place. I'm all over it. Let me finish the Bitcoin thought first, since Sunday Driver just said that. Um, Anyways, the gist of it is that, like, the short term speculation of Bitcoin seems to be positive at the moment, but the longer run is that it's overbought and is likely to collapse into another bubble. Probably before the end of this year. But maybe, later in the year when it usually crashes, right? And who knows what it's going to do until then. I would suspect that they'll try and push it, but we'll see. Anyways, I don't know. I'm gold. Gold still doesn't look like a good scalp. It's too thin. Anyways, so then I was talking about the day, right? So today, while we did have the housing starts, but it's still very, very slow news. There's not a lot of fundamentals going on. There's not a lot of happenings. Trade overnight was pretty quiet. Volume is pretty quiet. You can look at things right now here, 10 minutes after the news. It was at the bottom of the hour. It's extremely quiet. The E-minis
Sunday
only
Driver
moved
says
6.6.
Monero doing well.
It's just quiet. So you'll get again this setup where it's like the most likely case is that we don't do a whole lot. Probably maybe the E-mini bids up again and they try and go for the all-time high, and we'll see if they can make her hold it or not. There might be a fight over that. But there's also this minority scenario where you get a huge downtrend day. That can happen, and that often happens in places where there's no news because somebody's anticipating something in the future. And yeah, you can get crazy stuff. Um so we should remember that we have bill auctions again today, so we should keep an eye on that for in the treasuries. Overall, though, right now, I don't think I want to touch those. And say Monero is doing well. Well, the thing that's so interesting about this run is that, well, and this isn't unique to this run, but it's not really happening in Bitcoin. It's happening everywhere else, right? Like, there's tons of activity over in Ethereum. Interestingly enough, Vitalik was saying yesterday that Ethereum 2.0 was proving to be more difficult to implement than they hoped.
Sunday Driver says invest today based on what you think will happen in 2021.
So I don't. Well, if it's what I think is going to happen in 2021, I don't want to be in Bitcoin. But gold is kind of a big maybe. Like there's this big thing where it's like I still believe that the most likely case is deflation. So if I sit down and I think, okay, if a lot of the selling in treasuries was actually China, then this inflation scenario might not be as serious as it may have appeared at times last week. And therefore, I think that we go back to our uh, previous fundamental analysis that deflation, longer term deflation, is a more likely case. So, if it is, does gold? Do you want to have gold in deflation? Well, you don't, but gold doesn't necessarily have to go down because, again,
Sunday Driver says long-term, deflation makes no sense.
long-term deflation is the only thing that makes sense, Sunday Driver. If we continue to experience an output gap, then just the way that the monetary supply system works and the actions of the Federal Reserve creates deflation. You're going to get short-term inflation because, well, there's a lot of factors right now. These storms in Iowa just make it a lot worse, right? And you've got a bunch of people moving, so that makes housing inflation. From 1991 through 2001, Japan experienced a period of economic stagnation and price deflation. Yeah. I mean, that is what is most likely to happen to us based on what we know about the money system and what we know about the history. But they've pumped enough money in short term that we're getting reflation. We're kind of getting a reflation trade, right? But again, the point of all that was, okay, so what about gold? You want to sell gold because it's deflationary? Well, not necessarily, because again, gold doesn't have to do anything. It's entirely speculation. And as far as I can tell, the speculation is coming largely from retail traders. And so will it actually come down? I think that the retail traders are just always going to be concerned about inflation. That's the way that it was last time, even though we had deflation pretty much for the past 10 years. All I ever heard from regular people was, oh, this is going to create inflation. So gold over 2021 doesn't have to come down, even if we started getting the deflation in 2021. You know what I mean? But that's where it kind of becomes a difficult, when it's all that's I don't know of a way to really truly predict the amount of speculation that will come into an instrument and the degree of impact that it can have on it. You know what I mean? Things can just, when it's speculation, things can just go and go. Tesla being a perfect example, right? Tesla has just been going and going and going, and it is up there. We should open up Thinkorswim and see if we can see overnight. I'll see if they're actually still working. But we should check on Tesla today because I saw so many people yesterday bragging about making money in Tesla. They're all still in. That one is a little scary. 1908 for Tesla? Jeez. That's crazy.
Sunday Driver says they are keeping rates artificially low and the Fed will be the only buyer.
Wrong.
We are not constrained like Japan. Fed will inflate.
Pierre Clot says it's paper gold, not physical gold. Vlad Stolyarov says TSLA is not a normal game. Vlad Stolyarov says 1908 TSLA.
So the Federal Reserve is not the only buyer, though. The whole thing is it forces the banks to buy it practically. I mean, come on. Look at this. Fed's the only buyer? How can you say that? That's who? Okay. Fed wasn't buying it back here. Fed was really just like this last little part, right? It was like February, right? No, I'm sorry. The action that they do basically creates a short of treasuries, and the banks can't get enough of this stuff, even though it does nothing for them. It's quite hilarious. I don't know if hilarious is the right word. It's a really weird dynamic. Musk is cornering the shorts in Tesla. I don't think that Musk has anything to do with any of it. I don't know. So like, oh, I've had a lot of frames skipped. I'm sorry, guys. It's probably just because Thinkorswim is installing updates. That's going to infect that. I mean, they announced the stock split. Okay. Stock split doesn't change anything fundamentally, but it does kind of make it a more attractive option for smaller traders, right? So with them coming in, people are buying it up because they're realizing that demand is likely to increase a little bit here. But the issue that you get in a trade like that is like that can't go up forever, right? Like the amount that actually affects the near term demand for Tesla in reality is quite small, right? So you're already getting a speculation bubble based on something trivial. Based on something trivial. So what do you do?
Sunday Driver says what fool will buy US Treasuries at negative rates, which are coming?
All of the basically every bank and passive investment fund that basically have to have treasuries in their portfolio to even function. Yeah, understand, of course. Like did people stop buying them when it was in the Eurozone? No. I mean, they went elsewhere and they came over here in mass numbers, but they still bought the ones in Europe. They have no choice. They literally have no choice. That's the thing that's so weird about it. It's a very, very negative for banks, but guess what? They have to have them. They can't do business without it because they have to have that collateral. They have to have something to fund their activities that is liquid and low risk. And treasuries is like the only game in town. So I know it seems silly, but they have to. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm getting like a ton of dropped frames here because Thinkorswim is trying to install updates. Okay. Hopefully that gets rid of that. Okay. Is that really low risk to own the treasuries? Well, it depends on how you define risk, isn't it? I mean, the risk of the treasury market just completely falling apart is low, like from a historical perspective and everything. But it's not something that I would completely discount. I mean, come on. We've seen some fairly aggressive down moves in treasuries lately. You know, when things were looking really positive economically and then they come in and they sell it. That's happened a lot of times. And he changes to a 1 minute. Or maybe, yeah, we'll do 1 minute. I'd like to see more than a day, but okay, so wait, what? So they opened back up significantly higher. Mm-mm. That's too much. They're gonna pump it up on the open, and you should sell it. That's the way I would play it, like a short-term play. Because how can they? They're up. How much? What percent is that? That is a lot. 1840 divided by 1914. That's not. Uh, Up 4% overnight. Tesla behaves differently from regular pump and dumps. I don't think it's a pump and dump. No. I mean, obviously there's people trying to play it that way, but I don't think it's a pump and dump. I think it's a bubble. 15 viewers and 3 likes. Yeah. We're doing okay today. You know, I didn't push out the streaming thing early, so we might have a little bit less people today. That's okay though. It's a slow week anyways. I wouldn't expect to see a ton of viewers. I was actually surprised yesterday when we hit 40 viewers at one point. I was like, wow, really? Anyways, to Vlad's point.
Vlad Stolyarov says usually 3-day gap ups don't last.
I'd agree, but that's past data. I don't know. I don't think that has any real hold on what's happening right now. Treasury's going at their lows. E-mini flirting around with stopping out all of the shorts again. I mean, the thing is the E-mini is looking pretty positive. I think that they're definitely eyeing that all-time high up at 97. So then I come back over here and I look at Tesla and I'm thinking, well, Tesla's going to want to try and go along with the index. But if they're bid up that high, that is a problem. Just because are they really... So they're trying to make a gap is what they're doing. Right? You bid it up overnight, it's a gapper. All of the day traders are trying to trade gappers right now. So they'll come in and they'll go, oh, it's Tesla's gapping, I should buy it again. And then they're going to try and make a run for 2,000. But if it doesn't work, then I think that the downside could be really devastating. Let's see here. Chewy was saying something about Tesla. Good morning, Josh. Hey, you were the one that sent me that that trade strategy, yeah? Was that a different Josh?
Trader Josh says yeah.
So I read it. I thought it was complete
Trader
nonsense.
Josh says nope, that me.
I was shocked. To be honest. I was like, this is this strategy that's been so popular among people? This whole thing sounds like an awful idea. Because it wasn't even like I don't know. I mean, I just skimmed through most of the strategy part, but it seemed like most of it was just heuristics. It was like, don't short the touch of resistance the first time, and it was a bunch of rules like that. And it was mostly like price action basically ended up being defined as technical analysis based on feel. You know what I mean? And then to
Sunday Driver
top
says
it
if
all
deflation
off,
is in the cards, market should be crashing.
No. Hold on, we'll cover that in a second. And then to top it all off, he was using a skewed risk reward. He was risking more on his losers. His stop was further away. It was like he was risking 8 ticks to make 4 ticks or something like that. And he was boasting this high win rate. And I'm like, well, yeah, the win rate is mostly because of that. But then what'll happen, you'll get a period like March where the index is moving so much further, it's certainly going to ruin that. And you say, well, you just moved the stop out, but you're still getting some pretty random action. That's a likely
Sunday
area
Driver
to
says
just get
deflation equals
destroyed.
lower earnings.
Well, that is true. We shouldn't say lower earnings, Sunday Driver. We should say lower earnings growth. But we already know that, right? We already know that stocks, what you're paying, or you're paying an excessive amount for the amount of growth that you're going to get, right? The price earnings ratios are just all out of whack.
Trader Josh says, yeah, that guy is very popular on YouTube.
Is that where it's coming from? Is from YouTube? I couldn't believe what a load of bullshit it was. I thought it was going to be like, a really well thought out, highly defined strategy that, I could go back and back test, and, there'd be a lot of reasons for people to think that it kind of works, but ultimately when you dig down into it, you can see where the issues are. But when I go into it, what I realize is that it's so vague that you really can't quantify it. And because you give yourself this skewed risk reward, you basically get people trading it that don't realize, that it has no edge. Essentially, when you trade with your stop bigger than your profit, it basically ruins your ability to analyze your trading real time, right? Like I can come in and I can say, I've lost 3 times. That shouldn't happen. But when you're trading with the skewed risk reward, you're going to win most of the time, and you don't actually know if it's because you're trading well or not. And then when you do get the loser, that's just like a freak accident, right? Or you dismiss it as a freak accident because you know that the win rate is so high. And it creates a false sense of confidence. So I was, but more so than that, I was just shocked that it was like so vague. Like he didn't even try to define price action effectively. It basically just turned into technical analysis without technical indicators. Was like, and it was a bunch of heuristics. It was, don't do this, don't do this. It was a bunch of rules like that. It was very odd. I was very surprised. It was not what I thought. I shouldn't say odd, but it's just, I was blown away that was what was so popular.
Sunday Driver says deflation must equal overall negative earnings growth. Math.
Yeah, overall negative earnings growth. I mean, that wasn't the case over the last 10 years. Earnings growth was actually still good, right? But overall GDP growth was low. Although I think that has been because those big companies have continued to take more. Yeah, so if it's deflation, I think what you should expect is GDP growth to continue to be less than 2%, and companies like Apple, for instance, to continue to get all of the money and just get bigger and bigger
Sunday
and bigger.
Driver says we had deflation the last 10 years.
Oh yeah. We've been like, the only reason that we've been that okay, let me rephrase that, because overall when you look at the I'm not sure what metric we would be looking at, but okay, when you look at the measures of inflation like CPI and PPI, but those numbers that the Federal Reserve wants to be at 2% year over year, um, they haven't been negative numbers, but they haven't been 2%, right? And why is that? Because of Federal Reserve actions. Federal Reserve comes in and does inflationary things. If they didn't do that, then we would have had deflation. We would have had a negative inflation number at that point, right? So I'm not saying that. So when I say that the environment is deflationary, I'm not saying that I think that price indexes are going to be negative. What I mean is that price indexes are going to continue to underperform their targets, and that the Federal Reserve will have to continue to inject a lot of liquidity into the system to prevent that deflationary environment from coming in. That's why it turns into this. In the short term, you are going to get some inflation because they're putting the money in. But in the long term, the environment still ends up being deflationary. So you get basically the same setup that you've had for the last 10 years. Now, you can call it, you can use the terms. Now I've explained it to you. You understand what I mean, okay? The environment is going to continue to be a deflationary environment as it has been for the last 10 years. Which is an environment in which if the Federal Reserve doesn't do anything, prices decline. Right. This scenario of like runaway inflation doesn't make a lot of sense to me. In the short term, inflation, yes. Long term, no. But that's again where I'm saying as it relates to gold, right? I mean, we've been in a deflationary environment for the last 10 years, right? But then we've also overall stocks have done well. And so it turned into, for a long, long time, there was a lot of speculation on the gold stuff, but then eventually they had to give up and, move over into stocks. And I suspect that barring any kind of crazy other macro news that changes the situation, that's the most likely scenario is that continues to happen. That you get a big speculation move off of gold for the next 1 or 2 years, followed by, if there's no significant financial crisis after that, of those speculators getting bored and liquidating. And you'll get an environment where your CPI and PPI numbers continue to be low. And maybe the Federal Reserve is able to pull it off this time. They just go crazy with the printing the money, and they get above their 2% target. And I don't know. They think everything's hunky dory. I don't know if it works that way, but that seems to be the path that's been laid out. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Hey, did you find out anything new about the copper thing? No, I mean, I looked around quite a bit yesterday, but when my conclusion was that the London was probably a more significant exchange, that kind of, I don't know, that kind of killed my interest. Let's look at it right now. It's 295. Okay.
Fishy Pew says hi Seth from Hong Kong. S&P is gonna break out today.
Well, I don't really know. I don't try and predict the future quite that way, Fishy. But what I see is that we're still in a really slow market. Things still look fairly bullish, so it's possible, but it still just looks like you're at like some of the worst trading of the year here in August, right? So it's a hard call because the thing is they're certainly bullish, but do they have enough oomph to actually get up there? Because we're still a good 10 points away. And we barely moved anywhere yesterday. And I'm also a little concerned at some of the things that I'm seeing from the individual stocks in the pre-market. This Amazon being up above 1900 is just crazy, in my opinion. It is straight up crazy. I just don't see how that kind of a run is sustainable. I think that they're trying to gap it. They're going to trap a bunch of people. It's going to probably, like, the initial move might be long, but they'll trap people if they do it. You know, that's what it looks like to me. Okay, so treasuries came back. Well, they broke those lows and pushed down quite aggressively. See if they come back to 11.5 is kind of the middle here. It's probably going to be more like 11 by the time we get back there, but yeah, look at how easily they're recovering it, in fact. Well, had nobody say anything in the equity indexes channel for a while. I got in bed at a decent time, but the baby like woke me up a bunch of times last night. So I'm feeling a little off, a little sleepy. I'm really going to have to wait and be patient for a really good setup if I'm going to take something, right? Mm.
Kevin Wimmer says copper broke like weekly high from 2 weeks ago. Explains the incredible high volume.
Sure. But the thing is like high volume over here is not. There's a couple dozen of contracts, right? We need to look at the data from the London Metals Exchange. Is what I think we need to do. Compare. Because based on the volume numbers that I looked at yesterday, it seems like that the London Metal Exchange is more significant.
Kevin Wimmer says, well, in the 15 hours since open we had 26k. Since 11 minutes 5k. So pretty high lol.
Was I looking at the wrong? We're talking HG? Maybe I was in the wrong month or something? Because there's just a few dozen contracts going through at a time. No way that would get to 11k. Merkel, Germany won't loosen restrictions as virus grows. Germany's Merkel says, stick to the rules and we can open more things. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Because it seems to be this thing where they're like trying to crush the curve again, and I think at some point it's not going to work. Thoughts on Tradeovate brokerage? So I've never used it myself, so I'm always hesitant to give something a review that I haven't used myself. But just from watching people in Discord and the way that they react to it, the general consensus that I get is that their fee structure doesn't really do a whole lot for most of them, and that they just really don't like the charts on the platform. Like the long and short of it is they don't like the charts primarily. So maybe maybe with jigsaw charts, maybe that's not so bad. But it really feels to me like people are going to just start moving to edge clear, because with edge clear you still get the low commissions that you were getting with AMP, but you get a broker that they trust more, because there's some real trust issues with AMP. I've never had a problem, but I've read horrifying things. So there was this time where it was going to be like, oh man, Trade of 8 is the thing, and maybe people will move over to it. But it seems like that you had like an initial wave of people that moved over to it, and they weren't enamored enough with it enough to really get a whole lot of other people to go. Are you moving? I was going to. So I was saving up, because to trade micros, you had to have a certain amount of money. And I had that. But then I spent money on getting Financial Juice News. And so that kind of nixed that idea. So I don't know. So I think that what we're going to do is just continue with the AMP for now and see what happens. Well, see, that volume on that candle, that next candle, is 5,643. That's maybe possible. 5K maybe is possible. If you're trading a dozen contracts at a time, maybe that is possible. But the thing is when we were looking at the London Metal Exchange, they were trading hundreds of thousands a day. Let me blow my nose here. So I'm hearing Mnuchin is talking right now. House Representative Speaker Pelosi and U.S. Senate Democratic leader Schumer are not willing to strike a reasonable deal, from Financial Juice on Twitter. Says post office has plenty of cash on hand. He mean he's selling off on that. I'm still thinking about this Germany's Merkel thing. Is where it's like, if they have a full-on breakout, even after all of the economic damage that they're doing to themselves right now, that is just crazy. Oh man. So it's something that bothers me. I almost feel hesitant to even talk about it, because it just feels like backbiting to me. But one of the things is that David Portnoy, he streams every day. And he is always promoting stuff, like really hard. Like, I'm totally down to promote stuff for sure, especially if it's a product that I'm using. But the way in which he's doing like something like almost like desperate to promote stuff with as well as he should be doing seems just crazy to me. So like if you're doing so well from the trading, then why are you giving away so much of your reputation in promoting things, hawking things so hard, you know? Because every time that you promote something, you're kind of putting your name behind it, and if you just put your name behind, a spammy thing link every time that you go live, I feel like that kind of ruins your reputation. And I just can't believe that he's doing that. Anyways, I don't think you guys care, but it's just like it's just a thought going through my head, and I just can't. Okay, Minution says 5 U.S. states have been approved for new unemployment aid. 14 others applied or are preparing to. And minutes.
Vic97 Co says how to get good with Ninja Script, slightly smiling face.
Lots of practice, I guess. Yeah, I'm making a video on strategies, but the thing is like the mechanics of writing a strategy are not really super complicated. Like you're gonna get like what 99% of you guys are trying to do, automating strategies with what I'm going to show you guys. A couple of tricks, just, how to use time and a couple of other things that people don't necessarily think about initially that are really useful. And then after that, it's like you'll be able to write anything. The thing though is how do you make something that is so unique that nobody else is using it, right? So then you have to get into like making your own indicator or something. How do you make your own indicator or system setup that is so unique and different from what everybody else is doing that you can actually derive some real edge to it? And that's always been the issue that I've had is that I can program almost anything. And I'm just not coming up with ideas that are complicated enough to really be effective, I don't think, you know?
Fishy Bew says we have a lot of news and analysis here, said Robinhood users taking big parts in market and became abnormal game. Still going on, right?
Well, so Robinhood is definitely a significant part of this market. Um, but you got to remember that those dynamics flip. There's a metagame to it, right? Because like right now they like to trade gappers, right? So everybody goes in and trades gappers, and what's going to happen is you're going to get one of these moves where it's like, okay, the gapper comes in, they all get in, and then it goes against them. So now they'll realize like, oh, I'm too late, and now I'm always late on the gapper, and I'm just losing money. So then you have to play that completely different, right? And the game changes essentially as it stops working. It's a metagame. You get something, it'll work really, really well, and then as it starts to work really, really well, people trade against it. Now, it can take a long time for that cycle to go through, and because the majority of this market has happened during the summer, right? September comes along, things are going to change. Doesn't mean that the markets will go down overall, but I think that retail traders will start to be a lot more frustrated by the action. Well, this thing in Tesla, man, I mean, there's no other explanation for that one. They're like, uh, sure, there will be more people that can buy Tesla when you do a stock split, but it doesn't justify like a 40% increase in the stock's value. It just doesn't. It's just ridiculous. Trump would like us to move forward, says Mnuchin. And it just kind of comes back with the technical analysis thing. Like the thing that's so hard, and the thing that I don't think that most of us realize we're playing against is you've got companies out there that have entire teams and huge amount of resources, machine learning algorithms dedicated towards, you know, modifying their strategies over and over again. It's a hard game to compete in. Not to like don't want to be discouraging to people or anything, but just the idea that you're going to come in with a couple of different moving averages and create an automated strategy based off of that and be profitable is a little ridiculous. When you consider that there's robots out there that know about all of these indicators and strategies and are back testing millions of different combinations of them every night. Man, my nose is just super itchy. I'll move it over here for a second. All right. So I am seeing that the E-mini has come back to an area here around the 8150 that I could consider buying it. It's really close to the open though. Postmaster General will testify Friday before U.S. Senate panel. That'll be a real circus. Getting a lot of new viewers lately too. That's always nice. And a lot of likes today too. Early on, 8. It's good. I can see though that because I screwed up the thing, a couple of the regular viewers weren't able to make it. Oh yeah, did you guys hear that Oracle is now potentially bidding for TikTok? Like, what the heck is going? When it was Microsoft, that one made sense. Oracle? What? Oracle doesn't know a thing about that sort of technology. They're an old, washed out database company. Donald Trump Jr. just tweeting now, praising the high building permits, housing starts numbers. That is a number. It's obviously it's always good when it's good, but it's not good. Like people are moving out of cities in mass. That was not necessarily a positive thing. All of those businesses that were in the city that relied on that, bad for them. I see the 60 just took another gap up, but that time, for some reason, I'm not seeing. Oh, you know what? It must just be. I'm not getting the print yet. So let's see what the reading on the dollar index ends up being here in 5 seconds. I don't want that to calculate on every price change. That would be too much. 92.2.
Mike Salisbury says I hear that is driving LBS right now.
Yeah. You mean the flight from cities? It's real, man. Apparently in New York it's a really serious thing.
Mike Salisbury says LBS SEP to November, LBS SEP to January, huge inversions right now. Interesting spreads to watch yesterday.
You're talking about something different. I thought it was interesting that we had that big sell in the treasuries and now we're back up here. You think we can sell it again? Or is it the E-mini is going to just, if the E-mini comes up here, then it's a sell, right? But look at how slow and tepid it is. There was some big prints on the open at 1,000, but this is so slow, guys. Trump says we can't have ballots sent all over the place, so he's railing against mail-in balloting again. I bet you he says something about the post office. I tell you, if I was Donald Trump right now, I would be trying to just be as quiet as possible because I would starve the media for attention, right? Right now, what do they got? It's late August. They got nothing. And then September's going to start. They're going to need something, right? And if Donald Trump doesn't give them anything to start off of, then the most likely target is Joe Biden. And then they would start going after Joe Biden for being, crazy anytime that the media talks to him and the campaign trying to keep him away from the media as much as possible. That would be my strategy. Step out of the way, try and get the media to latch on to Joe Biden in the next news cycle. But I don't know if that's going to happen. S&P 500 edges towards all-time high, but Walmart offers a warning about slowing consumer spending. Tweets Forex Live. There's 85. No, I'm on delayed data over here. That sucks. 20 minutes. Oh, that's useless. That's useless. I might as well open TradeView. Later today, I will be signing a full and complete pardon for Susan Anthony. Wow, she never was. Huh. Okay, whatever. That's interesting. It's an interesting historical fact.
Mike Salisbury says this year is playing out to the seasonal tendency of election years, index pointing up.
The seasonality of all of it is pretty in line, isn't it? Well, there's the e-mini. We are getting and some orange candles here. Yeah, I have some of my indicators on this chart for some reason. Ninja Trader keeps screwing him up. Let me add him. I'll add him. Where's the other one? There we go. No, that's not right. I'm gonna have to close the workspace here really quick. Close. No. Open it back up.
Vic97 Co says, how did you get into day trading?
Oh, well, I was really into politics back in the 2008 election, and when the everything fell apart, basically, um, I was like, oh, I should learn finance, and so I just started trading just to understand the finance and the political implications of it, and I ended up just really liking it, and so then when I got out of school, instead of going into video game development like I was planning, because I realized that video game industry is kind of sucks to work in, I went over to a finance company and programmed for them for a couple of years. And then when I came out of that, then I started to do the day trading. So it's just kind of turned into my thing that I want to know about, what's going on in the financial market, essentially. And ever since that 2008, I don't think there's been a day gone by that I haven't looked at the S&P 500 index. I didn't actively trade through all that time, but
RJ Wheels says, were you up in Iowa with Mayor Pete working for Obama?
no. Here in Utah. So, some curious action going on here. They formed a pivot high on the 1-minute chart, but not a pivot low. So it's actually, believe it or not, pointed slightly down.
Mike Salisbury says, reading Trading and Exchanges right now by Larry Harris something. Really good read, worth a look into.
And what does he talk about with the exchanges and stuff? That sounds interesting. Okay, now we're caught up.
Mike Salisbury says, great section on parasitic trading.
You're talking about are you talking about toxic flow, or is it talking about just counter trading people?
Mike Salisbury says all traders and how they attempt to extract profits.
Okay. Okay, well, so far that buying activity was looking strong, but we've got this area up here around 88 that,
Mike Salisbury says some great concepts. We'll share in with you in DM.
oh yeah, I would love that. I'm wondering, this might actually be a potential short area, which isn't necessarily what I want to see.
Mike Salisbury says trading against others' orders.
Oh, okay. Because as far as I can tell, if there's no real catalyst for price to move in a certain
Mike
direction,
Salisbury says what people call order flow trading now I would say.
then I think that you should be trading against it, huh? You basically want to let everybody get long and then go short. Be the first one to go short and then watch them all get bored and, sell and take profits or whatever. Basically, this idea that it's like, we just all need to buy it runs into a brick wall at a certain spot. So even though there's been some strong ticks up, I am seeing some signs of weakness. For instance, the tick index is actually down. So what looks like we're getting those big stocks pushing us up, but not a lot of breadth. If we come over here and we look at like the trend and everything, it's low. Not a lot of breadth on this move. Yeah. So stalling out a little bit at 87.50. I think that they've still got a bit more in them though. Like that 89 looks like a really tempting target. Okay. NASDAQ seems to be pushing again. So I was just over this walk just now. There was Macron talking, the French president, over the situation in Belarus because the people in Belarus don't feel that the election was legitimate. Okay, so there it is right there. There's that last pivot. So going through that. There was some stops on the way there. I'm going to let them trade it still a little bit. Anyways, So Macron was addressing it, and I'm like, oh, is he going to tell off Belarus and the Russian president and everything? And he was sending a direct message to the Russian president to favor dialogue. Man, what a gutless wonder that guy is, huh? Trump says there doesn't seem to be too much democracy in Belarus. I like democracy. Protests seem to be very peaceful. They're not really, are they? Oh, maybe they are. I don't know. I haven't been following that one too closely. Okay, so you can see there the NASDAQ coming back quite a bit now. Noticing that the treasuries are staying bid here. That's what's going on in treasuries this morning is a little concerning. But probably a lot of what's going on over here in the E-mini is because the dollar falling so much off of the euro there. Donald Trump's still talking. This is not. I don't think that what I wanted to have happen is going to happen while he's up on television. So Tesla is now valued at nearly 2 times of all major U.S. car makers and airlines combined. It's not a bubble, guys. Yeah. Normally that would have been a good turn down, but with Donald Trump talking, I don't think they're going to sell. May have to wait a long time for a pullback and just go long. I don't know. So there's 90. I mean, the way looks clear to them to go for the all-time high. I just don't know if they can reach that today.
Culture Horse says 10A presser with POTUS per Twitter.
Yeah. No, they're speaking with him right now. He was signing a bill, and now he's taking comments from reporters. Or I don't know. It wasn't a bill. It was like a celebration of the 19th Amendment is what it was. KFC is giving away 1 million pieces of fried chicken to those returning to the classroom, both virtual and in person. Okay. Man, I'm still not over this trading floor audio tweeting that Tesla is valued at 2 times all major U.S. car makers and airlines combined.
Culture Horse says is that what sparked NQ up?
I think so. Well, I think it wasn't just that. There was a spot at which they had washed out all of the shorts. And so some people started to take it short. And then, it wasn't going because Trump was still speaking. I got out a little earlier, and then you kind of saw them all puke. So I think that there was a little bit of short covering up there at the top. Like that 90 area, that's going to be short covering. You can see the big spike up in volume too. Now, we could still try taking it short here. In fact, I'm getting a signal now, but still gonna have to be
Culture Horse says got it. Right, Ty.
Still gonna have to be careful about it because, it's counter trend. I'm reading like some of these quotes from Obama, from Michelle Obama's speech last night at the Democrat convention. And they're billing these quotes as like really strong quotes against President Trump and everything. And I'm like, this is just like normal political BS. Like, okay, so Trump press conference is over. CBC News has learned from multiple sources that the government is planning to prorogue Parliament, hold a cabinet retreat in September, and bring in a speech from the throne in October, followed by a budget or economic update. What? Okay, so a bit of a fight at 8650 there. You can see it ticking back and forth quite rapidly there. A bit hitting into it in an iceberg on both sides, but the sellers push through. And they continue at 86 as well. They're going to want to try and come back below 84. So I'm seeing CNBC saying that we hit an all-time high, but not from my chart. Okay, so I guess we're retracing the open now. $81 is one potential bounce area. So that was quite the stop run down
Plan before
there.
trade says pardon, that graphical representation of the order book, what application is it?
You're talking about in the bottom center. That is Jigsaw's auction vista. Or sorry, did I say bookmap? Jigsaw auction vista. There's another application called bookmap that has a similar kind of graphic representation, but I would generally consider it to be superior. But bookmap doesn't have as good of a DOM, so I use Jigsaw. That, and bookmap wasn't as strong of a thing when I purchased Jigsaw. So they all got pluses and minuses.
Plan before trade says thank you.
Yep. I have to say, I don't know, that lately I haven't been seeing a whole lot on here, but I really like the way that it shows cumulative deltas. So, so they're trying to hold it and bounce it now. So like I said, 81 is a spot where you'll likely see a bounce, but there was so much dumped there. I have to wonder. You have to wonder how effective a buy can be now, because I don't know if bulls are going to be so anxious to pick that up after that. And I wasn't really seeing any news or anything. What does Orogu Parliament mean? Am I even saying that correctly? I've never heard that word. Discontinue a session of Parliament without dissolving it. Okay. If we were to start to make a meaningful move below 81, then my next spot below that is going to be 75. Thinkorswim is now down again. That's probably not a positive for Tesla, is it? Are they holding price fairly okay in Tesla, or did they get hit on that down move? I'm gonna have to wait another 10 minutes to see. Oh no, I can watch it over here. I want to watch it over here. Where is it? Ooh, okay, it's a sweep sell there. Hold on a second. Oh, yep. They sold almost immediately.
Live Action says testing Hillary had a live podcast yesterday. Just checking if I am still allowed to chat smiley face.
So, if Tesla comes back to this 1840 area, yeah, we don't need to keep that up. Let's keep an eye on the index here, all right? NASDAQ having a flurry of activity there, some buying. It came back very quickly. It's kind of got two clusters here. We got one here at 83, and then we got the one at the low at 81. It looks like they're slowing down at the 83 cluster again, so they're going to turn back down and test it. It could if the NASDAQ is so inclined. Well, I have to admit that the setups and the action and overall sentiment seems very negative, but we're still August trading. It can easily fizzle out. Okay, so I am starting to get some signs of that they're ready to start taking another round of price discovery here if they break out. Should note the treasuries did come back a little bit. McConnell, their report reaffirms Special Counselor Mueller's finding that President Trump did not collude with Russia. It confirms and sheds new light on Russia's efforts to influence American politics. Okay. Something different. Tesla is trying to bounce, I see. About 15 minutes to the counter trend period. Treasury's still falling. Interesting that once again, it's like everything moves in tandem. This is a little bit too much. So like all of the currencies are down. E-mini is coming down. The treasuries are all moving down now. Gold
Mads
is
Mahler
moving
says hello,
down.
sir, smiley face.
Hey, welcome back. How are you? Mads Mahler.
Mads Mahler says how day going so far, smiley face.
I think I'm doing okay. It's kind of Interesting action. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen here. I may just take my profit here, I guess.
Vlad Stolyarov says zero volatility, back to sleep soon if nothing happens.
Yeah.
Mads Mahler says ID did begin to code, and needs some help.
Okay, so where are you stuck? Price to earnings ratio. Amazon, 126 times earnings. Tesla, 977 times earnings. Okay. All right, I got out there. Maybe they'll go lower, but I was right at my standard take profit, and it's like going really slow. I don't know what's going to happen. I think that it was prudent to get out because it touched like one of my targets. So I really should have taken the 30 when it was the first time. Because in this action, it looked to me like it was the start of something dire, or maybe it was news driven, but I shouldn't have been. That was a mistake, right? There's clearly it's positions trading here still, and so I should expect them to come down and test that cost basis and bounce off of it. And of course they did. So should have taken the 30. That's okay though.
Vlad Stolyarov says this can be another positive day, it's just very slow. Mads Mahler says, do you have any email, or some kind of thing where I can type to you smiley face? I have a zigzag indicator, and have set it to 3-tick reversal, but I wanted to print a box per bar when the pivot swing is done.
I mean, people can send emails to speculators at theprotonmail.com, but I don't like check that super regularly. Well, like really, if you want to talk to me, the best way is to just message me on Discord, especially for indicators because you want to go back and forth. But it kind of depends on the situation. Most of the time, I'm going to try and give you the thing that's going to make you independent. Okay. Dang. Oops. Okay. Now I want to look for 75. Anyways, so in this case, you want to draw something, then we have to get into the drawing methods. I'm trying to think what I might have that might be the best. Why is it you want a box / a bar? Can you be more descriptive about what you actually want it to look like? Oh my. Okay, so I want this sitting out here. Yep, I got people on Discord telling me, think your swim is for sure down. So now we can come over here and check. Okay, so Tesla's still not below its yesterday's closing price. I really want to see Tesla below yesterday's closing price. That would be like super juicy.
Mads Mahler says, yeah, OFC. So it should print a bar of the swing the zigzag indicator makes. So it not take the 1 minute bar.
Print a bar of this. Oh, you're trying to do something really weird. So you're saying that like say that this was a swing. You're saying you wanted to draw a box like that? They are falling apart, guys. So I'm gonna wait there. I could try and sell just with the momentum in this situation, but with the area that we just got and everything, I don't really want to mess with that. Wow. Okay.
Mads Mahler says yes sir, if the swing is down, and end. It should make a box per bar.
And you want the box to start from the start of the swing to the end of the swing. Basically. It would be like having a data series behind you that was based on the swing.
RJ Wheel says I got out.
Did you take the profits at 75 too? Or somewhere there? I'm really surprised that they sold that quickly to 70. So that means something's up. Remember I said at the beginning that it's kind of a slow Tuesday, but you got this potential for like a real bender of a down day. Well, now that they have washed out 75 down below
Mads
us,
Mahler says Jep, I will post a screen in Discord.
There's like no limit to how far down they can go now. Because at this point, nobody has made any money from being in a long, staying in a long, theoretically. Like from a theoretical perspective, anybody that was, if there was a buyer out there that was absorbing every contract that sells, they were responsible for every bid, and he took all of his profits in the most effective way possible, he would be losing money now. So below 75, and not only did they go below 75, but they shot down to the overnight low and just blasted through that. Yeah, you're running into some significant lows. So now I have to go into days past. So now we start to get into like yesterday, there's this area around 3070 that we kind of touched that. And then below that, we would have to be looking in the 67, 66 area. That's a really negative thing. Zero Edge is posting a picture of Minution on the phone again. So something that we should watch out for now is significant absorption in an area. If we start to see like 12, 15,000 contracts trade at one of these prices down at the bottom, then that would be significant. We're not even close. Well, we're about halfway there at 74. But
Live Action says
the
with the treasuries not expected to be very exciting for some time, Seth, you might find putting up all the indices instead more useful. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know if I really need them or not, though. I still find the treasuries really useful to trade the E-mini as well. Like this whole thing before the open. Why was the treasuries bought up first? And then when everything sold, they all sold. The treasury sold first, and then the equity indexes sold. And look at the currencies. Top left, euro down, yen down, gold down. Gold basically wiping out the session's gains and coming right back to 2000 again. Everything is going in tandem. I mean, there's probably a lot of those are still positive on the day, but they all turned down through that move. It's like almost across the board correlation. It's really weird. Okay, I should get some water now that that's happened because I'm like I want to make trades and I should be sitting on my hands here. So let's go get some water and then hopefully Mads will have that picture up. I can look at that. I think I have a good idea of what you're trying to do. Okay. Yeah, I think I understand what you need to do, Mads, and I think I know of a couple of places that could help you here. But
Mads
let me
Mahler
get some
says,
water
"Oh, did
first.
send it to you now." Slightly smiling face.
I'll be right back.
Mads Mahler says, "PBE Discord." Slightly smiling face.
Okay. See, even he's still recovering. Treasury's kind of in the middle and uncertain. Extremely uncertain. Okay, so I can't necessarily show you how to do the whole thing here because that would take too much time and I want you to be independent. But I can show you there's a piece of code here in NinjaTrader that will basically, for the drawing, is exactly what you want. And it's here in chart styles. So here in chart styles, there is box style.
Mads Mahler says, "Oh, sorry, BRB."
Okay, I'll wait. And then we'll talk about this box style code. Groupthink hits everyone everywhere. Whatever happened to be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful? Interesting to note Buffett doing what everyone else is doing these days, selling banks and buying bulk gold. The same goes for the new Hot Vision fund we remembered earlier, going all in fangs here. Oh, that's a curious. That's a good observation by the market here. Oh, and the euro has a big trend line here too at 1.39. No, wait. 1.19? Yeah. Let me make it bigger. $1.1938. I see.
Mads Mahler says, "So back." Slightly smiling face. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So where do we want to go? Okay, so the first thing is there's a method called on render that you can call, right? And then you're going to come in here. How do they do this actually? Okay, so the thing here is that they make a rectangle, right? And then in here, they set some things about the rectangle, right? Way down here. So they say if it's a down candle, then here's the height, here's the width, here's all the things. So this is basically, you can just copy this function right here, right? Now note there's a for loop. So if you're doing this as an indicator, then really what you've got to do is you've got to be able to for over all of the pivots, right? Going in and saying, okay, from this first pivot to this pivot, that's a triangle, and then from that pivot to the next pivot, that's a square, and then from this pivot to that pivot, that's a square, right? So especially if you had some series that had a list of all of the pivots, and you would want to keep track of like the bar, what bar that each pivot happened on, right? Then you could go in here and you could just say, okay, so the left value is where does it set this box start position? So they find it here. They set it to 0 by default, and then they say chart control get x by bar index, and then they do this. This is a line that you would probably copy out straight as well. You would say, and you would have to do get x bar by index, and instead of saying chart bars, you would have to pass in the bar that you saved from where the pivot was. Does that make sense? But basically, this on render is how you draw the triangle. So what you're doing is a little complicated, but it's doable. And getting another, should I take it short here again? Oh, I could. Anyways, I think that's the gist of it. You just look at that. Again, it's in chart styles box style. And you can just look at that code and oops. Didn't want to do that. Anyways, you can probably figure it out from there. Now I'm sure that there will be a lot of little syntactical things. And that's where I would just post them in the programming channel.
Mads Mahler says, oh okay, so I can't just copy it to the zigzag indicator,
yeah.
Rolf. Just a complete beginner. Did buy a course, and hope it will help also.
Yeah, so
Mads
you're
Mahler
going to
says, thanks a lot, smiley face.
Copy the on render into your indicator, and then, you're going to have to modify that code a little bit, because you're going to have to tell it where to start and end at, right? That's the key thing is telling it where the left side of the rectangle is and where the right side of the rectangle is. Or actually, really the way that it works is they say where's the side of the rectangle and how wide is it.
Live Action says, I was told by a top trader pivots are old school, but I caught a video on YT of a floor trader who swears by them.
Well, let me zoom in here. So if you come over and you look at this chart right here that has pivots on it.
JB says, did you get a course on NinjaTrader coding or C# coding? I am interested in a course as well. Live Action says they go give structure somewhat.
I haven't heard of a course on NinjaTrader coding, and if there's a course on NinjaTrader coding, I'd be really skeptical. But if it's on C# coding, then you go for it. Honestly, though, the thing that's going to help you, like what you're doing right now, Mats, is a really great exercise, right? You're going in, you're looking at code that already exists, and just slightly modifying it to fit your purposes. That's going to teach you more than any course can. Yeah, so anyways, here on this chart, I have pivots up. I'd say it's pretty hard to argue that pivots don't mean anything. Like that price doesn't react to pivots. They certainly do. But it seems to me a very clear case of, it only affects them because they think it does, because you can't actually tell if it's going to bounce or go through it or anything. It's random on that fact. So I say keep the pivots up there. Just don't tell yourself, okay, I'm going to take the bounce at pivot X because the percentage time that it bounces off of it is this. No. But what you can do is you can say, okay, here's a key pivot that they're going to try and break through.
Mads Mahler says okay thanks, but the problem is, that I don't understand the text formula of the text, idea behind.
What do you mean by idea behind? Oh boy. That was a wash in the...
Live Action says the floor guy said he would scratch and go off them.
Yeah. Because floor traders used them, right? A lot of people are trading off with pivots. I'll just tell you that. So like straight up, if you get a spot where there's like a pivot that they're likely to bounce off of, and then you go in and you look at the fundamentals and the fundamentals are bad, trade against that pivot. There will be so many people trading it and looking for the bounce, and you have the fundamentals on your side, and when they lose, you will win big. Those are the best trades, is when you get these technical indicators that everybody trades off of and they don't matter. So another thing is just like, if there's any of those methods that you don't understand, just look them up in the Ninja Trader 8 documentation. And they will give you an explanation of every value that's in there. And the rest is just math, right? So they're finding out where the bar is, and then they're finding out how wide a bar needs to be based off of where the
Live Action says I back tested them and found 60% success rate, but these %s don't mean anything because every day is different.
Yeah. It's well, and that's probably one of those things where you said like, was it like you at 60% success rate, like being you took it at the pivot and you reversed it for X ticks? Or was it more like they get below this pivot X% of the time?
Live Action says, thing I found rare for price to break R2S2.
Yeah. Okay. 70. I suppose we could have taken that one, but the risk reward wasn't very good.
JB says so if someone knows a good C# class at a fair price, I'd appreciate a link.
I think yesterday's low looks very tempting.
Live Action says 5 rate for pivot to hold SR.
No.
Live Action says % not 5.
When you say, but how are you defining hold? Do you mean like they close above that 60% of the time? How did you determine that? That matters a lot.
Mads Mahler says all the text on bar update, on change, and so on.
Well, it'll take a long time. So you're going to see method names that you don't understand, right? And you're just going to have to look the methods up. And, of course, variables are variables. You have to, it's going to be meticulous and it takes a long time, but that's kind of how, that's the skill you got to build, right? is here's a piece of code. Just look up in the reference what each method is. I don't think that there's any kind of strange syntactical sugar that you need some huge understanding of C# to understand all that code. You just need to look up the methods. Like what does get X by bar ID index, whatever it was. What does that method do? How does that work? That's the sort of stuff you want to look up, right?
Mads Mahler says, where can I do that? Slightly smiling face.
Okay, so I'm a little nervous about this trade, but ninjatrader8.com/sport/help
Plan B4 trade says IMHO. That is not helpful.
Reference.
You have 60% of doing XYZ at the pivot, but what about the risk of that setup? Does it give you a stop?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was getting at, Plan B. They came just short of me here. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Okay, I can wait. They're going to do that sort of thing. That sucked. Oh well.
Mads Mahler says, okay there, thanks a lot. Back to work. Live Action says, every time price touched pivot, did it hold support or resistance is how I looked at it.
So let me rephrase my question. What is defined as that it held? What is the specific mathematical test that is used to define that something held? Because clearly it goes through the pivot, right? Almost always they go through the pivot. So how did you determine that it held, quote unquote?
AW says, hey Seth, what language have you used the most?
Oh, definitely C#.
C++.
Definitely C#. I've used a lot of C#. Man, I'm really mad that that one didn't hit my target and turned around so quickly on me. And maybe if I was paying a little bit closer attention, I might have been able to get out faster. Who knows? Maybe they're gonna careen back down there, but I don't want to mess with it. Risk reward's not very good. I still did good. I still got 2 good ones, right? So can't complain too much. Anyways, here, if you just search for NinjaTrader 8 help guide or language reference, you'll find this. This is where you want to look it up. And then you can come in here and you can just search. And all of the NinjaTrader 8 specific methods, they're in here somewhere. That's how you find out what they do. So when I was doing tests, I would do something like, okay, if S2 was touched, but they closed higher, then that means it held on the day, right? That's the way that I did that test. That's the easiest way to do that test. So you go in your spreadsheet and you say, is the close higher than that pivot? Is the low lower than that pivot and the high higher than that pivot, and the close higher than that pivot? Then that means that the pivot held in the end, right? That's the way that most of us do that sort of a trade. And that's where I think that's what Plan B was trying to say, is that just because it holds in the end doesn't mean that you can go in and take a trade and say enter at the pivot and have an 8 tick stop and hold it till the end of the day or something like that. Because that's not what you tested. You just tested that if you buy it at the pivot and you hold it no matter what until the end of the day, that 60% of the time you win. But that doesn't tell you how far it's going to go against you in the meantime, right? And so what happens is we come in and we try and trade that, and it goes through and it goes way further than we ever expected. Maybe it ends up going higher in the end, but it's not actually a short-term trade, right? So then you could go and you could do like a real backtest, right? You could say, okay, I want to reverse it at the pivot. I want to let it go through it first, and then if it comes back up to the pivot, then I want to buy it as it's coming back up, and I'll give it like this many ticks, downside and this many ticks upside, or maybe adjust it based on what the average true range is at the time, and then you have an actual real trade. And what you're going to find when you backtest something like that, almost always on that kind of a setup, is it's going to work most of the time. And then you're going to have this period where it just absolutely sucks. That is further than the max drawdown that you can handle. It's going to work okay. It's going to have like fairly high win rate and okay risk reward. I don't know. We'd have to do it, but that's usually how they work out. Is that it is a likely thing to happen, but because of the other statistical properties of it, it's a questionable trade. Ever since Morgan Stanley bought TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim has been having lots of problems. They might be trying to integrate it with a newer platform or with Morgan Stanley's technology department. Maybe. Their charting has sucked for the past 2 days. I don't think that Thinkorswim is anywhere even close to as nice as NinjaTrader, though. And if NinjaTrader brokerage allow you to trade stocks, giddy up. I'm down. And then you get level 2 with stocks too. Woo, that'd be great.
Live action says Seth yes a mess past 2 days.
The TD Ameritrade thing is, yeah, it's, well, when they got bought, I remember when they got bought, and I was like, well, there you go. I would be trying to use Tasty Trade. I've never used their system. I don't know if Tasty Trade has a good technology or any of that stuff, but it's the same people, and they're the ones with the ideas. Those are the people that I would want to be trading with. TD Ameritrade, they're going to ruin it. They're always going to ruin it. That's just the way it is. When the big company buys it, it's not as good. It's
Live
always
action says I am moving to TT today.
Trading technologies, but TT doesn't do stocks, do they? So I was looking at the other day, and they're pretty specialized in futures. If TT did stocks, then that might be worth it too. It's a good platform. But I think the only platforms that really will give you everything are Thinkorswim and Interactive Brokers. Them treasuries still pumping up higher. So maybe now we're getting the flight to safety.
Michael XC says Seth do you use Utopia Fiber?
I do. I don't have their super nice plan, but I just got
Michael XC says sounds pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it's like I moved specifically here for that. It's like, okay, I got fiber. It's a house that's of course I could go, maybe if I become rich, I could go and I could build a new house with like, a room just for streaming and a room just for, could do all the big No. This house, good enough. Staying here. I have internet. That's all I need. That's all I need is fiber optic internet, and I'm set. Right? Whole reason to be here. And I tell you what, it was not easy for them to get that fiber in, because first of all, they had to fight all these legal challenges, so it took years and years to even get started. And then they didn't, municipalities don't know how to lay fiber in an economical, order. So they didn't know where they should be putting it in first, and they didn't know how to market it, so they'd put it in, and then the people in the area would still be using Comcast because they didn't know any better. There's all those problems. So a lot of cities in Utah that were originally signed up for it, it eventually got defeated at their city councils, and they never got it, or they got poached by Google Fiber. Yeah, pretty crazy. But I remember I was like 15 when they first proposed the thing. It took me half of my life for me to get Utopia Fiber, and I'm living it up. It's great stuff. Oh man, there's this guy that's called, there's a website called freeutopia.org, and he blogged about it. So you can go back and you can read the whole 15-year history if you want to. It's incredibly interesting. Well-documented use case. Is it? So I think that the default one is like 10 up and 10 down and 2 up or something like that. You can get the faster one, and then if you pay for the faster one, it's full on gigabit up and down, which is wow. The regular one is comparable to your Comcast. I forget what the numbers are. We could do a speed test, but probably not best to do it while we're streaming out. You think that they're going to go down for another new low, or do you think that they're going to bounce higher this time? I think it's a little sketchy, their ability to buy here. Like, let me rephrase. I don't see any fundamental drivers still. The only news that I am hearing coming over the wires about Belarus, and I don't think markets care about that right now. Rand Squawk. All those annoying Bitcoiners who you promised never to invite back for Christmas dinner are going to be even more insufferable this year. The difference this year versus a couple of years ago is that policymakers have decimated bond markets, so this year I might entertain the Bitcoiners a little more than I usually would. Oh, Russian market tweeting, how dare Bitcoin jump above 12K? Oh, that was funny. How dare they? No, it's if they get above 15K, then I'm going to be like, how dare. Bitcoin was above 15K. That is a spot at which I think you could entertain outright shorts in Bitcoin. No joke. Let it go past it, come back, buy puts on it, man. Buy the puts. That's what I would. That's if there was a way to buy puts on it, so you can just make a one-way bet. That's the way that I would do it. One-way bet puts at 15,000. Fortunately, not something I can play, but let's check in on Tesla. Tesla's still holding. This might kind of go sideways all day and then get like a dump at the end or something, or maybe a dump tomorrow if it is going to go down. Because the one it was like up big, we did see a little bit of a spike higher, right? Wasn't as much of one as I thought it would be though. And then this was in the index is pretty dramatic. The problem we still have is like you can see that the market is too long. Are you getting that impression? right? Like everybody's long, and anytime that even the slightest little hiccup happens, they just completely panic and it sells like crazy. Like this is a really easily scared market. But there's one big thing that's missing, and that is a real true sell catalyst that changes the fundamental picture. We're not getting it. We could get it at some point, though. We could get it in the fall. Joe Biden winning that could give it to us. And then, you know, once the momentum flips around. Woo. By the way, did we end up trading enough down there for a hold? Not really.
Michael XC says when the banks start failing.
When the banks start failing. Yeah, I was reading an interesting article on Zero Hedge about how the European banking system was still quite was quite unhealthy, I guess you could say. You remember there was was so long ago. There was somebody that would come in to chat, and they were convinced that Deutsche Bank was about to become insolvent, right? And so this article on Zero Hedge was basically looking at the balance sheets and everything and showing that the European banks were still incredibly unhealthy. So that's one spot, is that you could see something start in the Eurozone and, you know, contagion spread. Ten-year could go high. Like I can see room up to 16 if they actually want to go that way. I don't know. Things still just seem way too correlated. And I think that part of what might be going on here again is the euro. The euro really turned around there, and they're coming to a specific resistance point. So I think what's happening is all the technical traders are trying to take the euro short here, and that's resulting in some fear coming into the equity indexes, and the dollar index recovering. Like only by like 10 cents, but Florida cases rise by 3,838 on Tuesday. Well, it feels like it's really calmed down now. I guess we're coming out of the counter trend period, but for most of the counter trend period, we were in a sell. I don't know if that means that from here on out we'll buy up, but it's entirely possible that we come back to that area. We did fail to break yesterday's low, which is turning out to be an important turn. Yeah. Feeling a little sleepy today. VIX really shot up there too when it happened, huh? Oh, now look at Tesla. Tesla at 1908. Gosh. It's so crazy. I'm not sure that I could entertain a short in Tesla yet. I sure want to, but Marianne Williamson, the Democrat convention is like binge watching a Marriott commercial. What? They still let her on television? Oh, man. 195,000 metric tons of corn were exported to China during the 2020-2021 marketing year, says the U.S. Department of Agriculture. What's this Mike Tyson's first economic release? Okay.
PRT1 says Tesla is a religion.
It's ridiculous, right? Oh man, but you know what they're doing, right? Do you see it? Okay. Here's the gap. Okay. Fill the gap, move higher. That's the technical pattern they're all trading right now. I'm honestly really surprised that with the strength of the sell and the E-mini that they didn't break this. I'm surprised that they didn't break this. Just because technical analysis doesn't work doesn't mean that we can't go back afterwards and look at what all of the technical traders are possibly trying to trade, right? What's this? Luke Groman is being retweeted by Ransquawk, to whomever is seemingly attempting to keep gold under $2,000 an ounce in a vain attempt to maintain the illusion that the COVID crisis hadn't burst the first and biggest global sovereign debt bubble in 100 years and won't require massive negative real rates for decades to come. Thank you. Nah, I think that it was all just a massive correlation trade, man. It's a little concerning to me. Everything selling at once. That's a little concerning to me. In a situation like that where the E-mini is selling down like that, gold shouldn't be following it. It's not healthy market action, right? Everything sells. That's indicative of real problems in the market. Okay, well, VIX is returning back to normal levels. So you guys didn't hear it, but there's this tweet. I'll let you go out and find that on Financial Juice's Twitter, where it's Mike Tyson's first economic release, and he's like, trying to give an overview of what happened overnight, but he's just reading somebody else's thing, and he was like, "U.S." and he's like, "What? You suck. I'm gonna beat you," and then he starts fighting the guy. It was all in the really crazy Mike Tyson lisp. Here, my son is awake and making loud noises. Donald Trump, if left-wing Democrats can't run a city, why on earth would
Live
you let
Action
them
says
run
I
your
can
country?
just imagine that one bet it was real funny.
Yeah. Yeah, go find it. It was pretty funny. I didn't watch the whole thing. I was like, I don't want to sit here and laugh about this when I can't show it to you guys all. Somebody else's content, so I don't think it would be great to stream it like that. But the marketeers tweets, you can always panic and buy lumber. Lumber would be a good buy right now. Are they up big? What's the chart look like? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that. That is a chart. Good 2-3 day move. Oh yeah. Marketeer posting more about put call ratio. Still really messed up. Greg Miller tweeting, I'm sure this is no big deal, but multi-year Senate intel report has found that Trump's campaign manager was in constant touch with a Russian intel officer and that Roger Stone learned in advance about WikiLeaks stumps at the tasking of the Trump campaign. That's really incredibly new information. I wonder where they're getting that from.
Live Action says saw a funny one with Biden talking about being in the pool and his blonde leg hair and Obama friends give Obama the eye and Obama says, what?
What? That sounds a little too weird for me. I'm just noticing that Tesla is maybe possibly printing a red candle here. And we're kind of at like a bounce level. A little I don't think I can take this. I think that I'm done for the day. We did good. I don't know. I feel like I should keep going, but see, here's a turn in the E-mini. Like you could take that at 74.50. It's a reasonable signal. I just don't have any real fundamental basis to believe that it's going to do anything now. Like I could see with the positionings and everything, the potential for them to move down. Now that they've done it and it didn't, just continue. Now where do we go? They're bouncing off of the seller's cost basis. I can tell you that much. Could they get back above yesterday's close and yesterday's high? Sure. So I just don't see a very good setup. Probably gonna regret that later. It's gonna like sell the crap out of this and be like, oh, we should have sold it. Could have made 50 points, but I digress. Zero Hedge's latest story headline is peak schizophrenia. Wall Street turns extremely bullish just as it finds all assets record overvalued. Yeah. Sudan says it is open to peace with Israel. That must have been the second country that Jared Kushner was saying could make peace with Israel. Huh. Now that whole thing is really interesting because they basically gave the Palestinians a chance to be like, okay, like let's fix this and make a deal. They gave them a deal that was pretty shitty, to be honest. Like, not that I'm saying that it's like a shitty deal, like I think it's unjust or anything like that, but just that it's certainly not what the Palestinians wanted, right? And they rejected it, of course, as they always do. And so now Israel has just gone and made buddies with all of these other countries, and now the Palestinians are like even in a weaker position. Now they've got to be thinking, oh, we should have taken it.
PRT1 says Biden set the peace agreement from his basement. Live Action says saw another funny political one with Trump where he says, I have the best words, and they go into a montage of his speeches.
Oh my gosh, he is so, yeah. You know what? I think that Donald Trump has trouble reading. They people, so there's a certain kind of attack that you can't make. Like if you start to attack somebody for a normal disability, like if I ran for president and I'm ADHD, now I'm public about it, but Donald Trump obviously never say anything about it, although supposedly he has ADHD. You start attacking them for that, then it's an attack on anybody that's ADHD, right? Then are you going to start seeing, negative after effects on anybody that has ADHD, right? So it's the same thing. So like Donald Trump, because of his ADHD, he has a hard time reading. And so there are a lot of words that he just doesn't know how to say when he reads them out and stuff. They put them in his speeches. Yeah. It's totally a thing, I think. Wait, what? Goldman Sachs tweets, baking doesn't have to be intimidating. Dominique Ansel discusses his new book, Everyone Can Bake, during talk at GS. Why are you tweeting? I don't
Live
care.
Action says, did you see Biden's report cards from school?
What? They did not. That must be fake. They actually have them? I don't believe you. There's a new way. Probably fake.
Live Action says yes.
Probably fake. Nope, I don't see anything.
Live Action says on the news the other day.
Let's search for it. Joe Biden report card. And again, nothing. Maybe we need DuckDuckGo. Duck. Nope. Nope. I don't see anything out there. I think you're mistaken, Live Action. What are they saying over here right now? By the way, 77 again. This is kind of where we hold back to off of the first buy. We're above the cost basis now. They're in all out buy mode again. This person here trying to say Kamala Harris was not a naturalized citizen.
Live Action says hold on, let me search, it might be on YT.
They were students with non-immigrant visas. Does that mean that Kamala Harris is not a naturalized citizen? I don't know. I don't think anybody cares, to be honest.
PRT1 says that's racist.
Well, it's not necessarily racist if you have a good legal argument. I question, though, how solid the legal argument here is. But they're pointing out something interesting, which is that when Kamala was born.
RJ Wheel says, did he get in trouble for kissing the top of other third grader girls on the head?
What? Where is that? Kamala was born.
Says, I am kidding.
They weren't like U.S. citizens, right? She was born here, but they weren't. She's like an anchor baby of sorts. I don't think that there's no direct proof that anything illegal was done. But
PRT1 says, I mean, you hate women.
Oh, he's kidding. I get you. No, it's kind of weird to me. Here's the thing that's really weird about this one is that, like, Donald Trump was asked about it, and he said, well, there was this legal guy that knows about this stuff that said it was a thing. Now, when that guy said that, the article did not represent who was saying it very well. This guy, he is a lawyer, but he's a kook that's been on this issue for forever. So going to that person to say, as an authority for whether or not she's a natural born citizen or not or whatever is just dumb, right? So so Donald Trump didn't say he believed it or not. He just said, well, this guy, he's saying it. And that was it. So they all got upset about him for not outright rejecting it, whatever. And I would think that it would just go away. And then the Trump campaign said, well, we're not going to challenge her eligibility. But now these people are starting to point stuff out, right? So they're saying, a child born in the U.S. of alien parents was deemed a citizen of the parent's home country, not a U.S. citizen. That's not true. That's not true at all. So the first thing that they say in this little graphic is not true. If you're born in the United States to alien parents, you can still be considered a U.S. citizen. But the question is, are they a natural born citizen? That's where it gets vague. What's a natural born citizen? But they're just pointing out here that the U.S. had a strict quota system. Foreign students were issued non-immigrant visas only. So, U.S. residents required prior to applying for U.S. citizenship was 5 years. So neither of them were citizens. So I don't know if Kamala has said anything about that, but I think that they are making a pretty good case that her parents were not U.S. citizens when she was born. But that doesn't prove that she's not a... that proves that she's an anchor baby and doesn't necessarily make her not a natural born citizen, right?
Winston's mom says, good morning. I just flew in from Wakanda and boy are my superpowered arms tired.
Really?
Kamala was born in Oakland. Sheesh. Lol.
She was born in Oakland. You're right.
Michael XC says they made a big fuss about nothing. Trump said when he was asked that the DNC probably would have checked it out.
Probably.
RJ Wheel says I knew you were from there. Live Action says okay, if my memory serves me well, he repeated third grade, received all C's and D's through school, and his college graduating class of 84 he finished 74th.
Huh. Okay. I couldn't find it. Yeah, so that's the thing. So you gotta realize that what the argument really is here, because what I'm reading, the stuff that I've been reading about it on the Donald, there's always something deceptive about it. Wish I could downvote this. She was born in the U.S., right? There's this legal argument about what is a natural born citizen. So they're claiming that to be a natural born citizen, that you had to be born in the U.S. and both of your parents were citizens at the time, or something of that nature. So really what's going on is they're challenging her, the constitutionality of her being able to run for president based on a kind of an out there legal theory, unproven legal theory. Does that make sense? So when you see these, I just show you the thing. I'm trying trying to disprove it here, right? They say a child born of U.S. alien parents was deemed a citizen of the parent's home country, not a U.S. citizen. Irrelevant. U.S. had a strict quota system. Parents were, this basically, all of this is to point out that they were students with non-immigrant visas. Probably true. Irrelevant, right? And to Gary Rich's point here.
Gary Rich says Kamala citizen is moot BS point. Stop building crop circles in brains, and molesting minds on this stuff.
I think it's probably is BS. So, like, now the question is, if you're a Republican, this is not the way that you want to campaign. You don't want everybody getting on that. How do you effectively combat it? So that's where I'm saying you have to get into that. The whole person that started this is a kook, not a kook. I shouldn't say it like that. The guy that started this is a lawyer that's been kind of an activist lawyer on this whole natural born citizen thing, and is not an accurate source to look towards. It is not an authoritative source on who is a natural born citizen and who is not. And I haven't seen anybody else try to make this argument, effectively. So now on the other side, I'm not seeing people say the things that I think that you need to say to disprove it, except for like one Wall Street Journal article that I read that was really overly detailed. So I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing for Republicans for that to really pick up, though. There you go. Being born in the U.S. automatically gives you citizenship. He's right. At issue is the subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause. The authors of the 14th Amendment generally understood that a citizen of another country was not under the jurisdiction of the U.S. and thus not eligible for citizenship. The American Indian is an example. They were not included as citizens under the 14th Amendment because they were under the jurisdiction of their respective tribes. Ergo, this should be brought before the Supreme Court, right? It's an unproven legal theory. But you know what? Take it to the court. I'd be interested to see. I'm always in favor of, so here's one that I know this is an unpopular opinion, but Edward Snowden, was what Edward Snowden did a crime? Should he go to jail for it? Well, I think it might be, but I think that there's some defenses too. I think that there are like some, situations where you can give out that kind of information or you're protected and it's like whistle. So I think that what should happen is Edward Snowden should have to come back to the United States. He should go to trial. What happens at trial happens, and then he is pardoned. As long as they don't treat him poorly in prison, that would be the issue. Is that, man, look at the way that they've been treating Assange. That is just ridiculous. This is not okay. That whole thing.
Michael XC says they care more punishing Assange because he made the U.S. look bad.
Yeah, now Assange, here's the thing with Assange. Assange did things that are definitely wrong legally, okay? Because he was basically encouraging people and telling people how to hack. That they had certain permissions, and it was like, okay, so here's how you can use those permissions to gain access to other systems and access data that you're not supposed to have. That is definitely illegal. And you can go to jail for a very long time. Remember when they threw the book at Kevin Mitnick? Right? But the treatment that Assange has gotten while he's in custody, ever since he got kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy, is appalling. His health is so bad. Appalling. And I wouldn't want Edward Snowden to go through that. But I feel like that it should be tested. Because here's the thing. If you just pardon Edward Snowden, what happens when there's something else that the American public really has a right to know about and somebody has to leak it and then the government goes after that leaker, Like next time around, they'll just look at Edward Snowden and they'll say, well, I'm not as smart as Edward Snowden. I won't get away like he did. They won't do it. You know what I mean? But if you can take it to court and then you can prove out the argument that actually he did a good thing or, win on certain points, then maybe you might accomplish something for leakers. I don't know. You know what I mean? Anyways.
Winston's mom says Julian Assange has acted so strange in the reports I read, and Pamela Anderson said he has experienced trauma and shock. I read he's a rude embassy guest, and now I wonder if he is faking it or bonkers.
Well, I don't know. He's not faking it, but he is rude. So there's been a number of stories from people that he stayed in their places. So there was this one couple. They let him stay in their house, and he was only supposed to be there for a moment, and he was there way longer than he should have been. And everything that I've read about him personally is that this is a very unbalanced individual. And very ideologically driven as well. So that's certainly the case, but he's not faking it. Like he's been under a pretty poor conditions the way they've been holding him. So yeah, I don't know. One of the key things is like you don't hear about it a whole lot, do you? I'm always looking at myself instead of the camera there. You don't hear a lot about him, do you? And that's how you know that. Because they don't want you to hear a whole lot about how he's being held in solitary confinement and all that. Anyways. It looks like here on the Donald that most of the commenters are saying that this Kamala Harris thing is nonsense. They're like, who cares? They're all totally against it. Fake news. Good for you guys.
Michael XC says, wait, I thought they banned the Donald?
No. So what happened was, I shouldn't go into the whole history of it, but the gist of it is that the people that were in charge of the Donald, long before it got shut down, created a website called thedonald.win. That's the URL, thedonald.win. And it continues over there. And it's a pretty large community.
Winston's mom says, would you use a green screen if you had one? What would you do with a green scene? I see some pretty creative ideas out there, including one New Yorker who dresses up as Captain Kirk and sings. Lol.
I've been hearing that. My family's said that, talked about a green screen many times when I was like, no, we got to get some good stuff behind me and everything else like that. No, like the blue lighting and the wainscoting on the wall and all, it's all part of the aesthetic. I like it. It's like, hey, he's in a nice room. Huh? That's what I think. See some streams where they're literally, it looks like they're in a hole. It's like, yeah, you got a lot of screens and everything, but like you look like you live in a pigsty. Like,
AW says hashtag Baby Yoda.
Yeah, the Baby Yoda is pretty cool, right? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Winston's mom says in the old-fashioned microphone. I agree, you have a nice aesthetic here.
Sure, 55. I quite like it. It is not the best microphone for streaming. Like straight up, I'm just telling you. This was meant to be like a stage mic, and I've got it on this stand that absorbs all of the vibrations and stuff, but it looks cool, and that's all that matters, because the difference in audio quality you guys wouldn't even notice if we switched it.
AW says wifey actually wanted me to ask you where you got the Yoda from.
Zurchers. I don't know what you call it there, what you have where you live, but here we have party supply store called Zurchers, where you would go to buy balloons and all manner of birthday party and other party occasion paraphernalia, and they had Baby Yodas there, and that's where we got it. I think we all have one. I think that my sister because there's another. I think my older sister has one too, because my younger sister bought them for the parties. Like we got him when we had the baby shower for Asher. That's where it came from. I thought Baby Yoda was a stuffed toy, but it's a cardboard cutout, isn't it? Yeah, it is. You know what I do with it when I'm recording the videos and I want to have like my charts behind me for the video, right? Um, it's really hard to focus the camera and everything just by myself. So what I do is I put Baby Yoda on a box in the chair, and that roughly approximates my height. And then I focus it on the Baby Yoda, and then I'll have my wife come in and fine tune it, and that's how I adjust it. That's the main reason that it's in here, and then it just kind of stays back there. We used to have it with when my stepson was in here, and he had a desk there, and you could see the desk. And I kept hiding the Yoda on different spots of the desk, and most of the time nobody would say anything. So there's stuff in the glass case too, but that's too blurry for you to see. Like that little white thing. Do you see the little white thing right there? That's a ceramic dragon that my wife painted for me. I think probably the best present I was ever given.
Bot says I see the resemblance now.
Yeah. Oh man. How you doing? It's been a few days, Bots. I don't know. So we're getting close to the close here, and I'm just thinking about how I traded today. Let's go back and look at it, because my first short didn't work out. I was a little bit early, and then I'm really haggling over ticks, but I feel like I could have gotten a better short. You know what I mean? And then on this one, it really bothers me that I didn't get the 30. Okay, so there was 80. Let's split the difference and say that it was 8 that I got out at 84, and then there was 80. So that was another $20 or so that I missed out on right there between these two. And then here, this one ended up being way too, like I got out at 75 and it went down to 65, right? So I probably could have held these, although the situation calls for short scalps. So, $30 was good. So I shouldn't make too big of a deal out of that. But then the other thing is this one I should have gotten into sooner, and I got a good couple of ticks that just didn't quite go to my target. I was 3 ticks short of my target, and that one came back so quickly. I wish I could have gotten a profit off of that one. So that one kind of bothers me. Another thing was this one is that I started using multiple contracts, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm chasing it. I'm going to try multiple contracts to chase it. And then when I got them, I said, okay, fine, we'll just kind of reduce my position. But I should have held them down and took a ton off of that. Don't know what I was thinking there. Should have played it. But I continue to see that my technical edge here is really good. And obviously requires... I don't think that the technical edge has good probability, but it has good spots. Some very good spots. And once I know which way it's going, pretty nice. Even in slow action, which is very, very good. Bot says it's not great, but thanks for asking. Oh, dear. I hope that that's just for trading and not for other reasons, like health or anything like that. Ugh. Slow days out in the indexes, so if you're not doing super great on the indexes, then it's, it's no big deal, because just don't trade August anyways, right?
Winston's mom says, bots, how goes your world? Spinning are nicely balanced on all of its many turtles. I have read some people think the world sits on a turtle which sits on another turtle, 16 turtles total.
Was that a thing? There was a thing like that in Avatar: The Last Airbender where he's on a turtle and then the turtle gives him the power to affect people's chakras. What the heck is this? Oh, that's weird. Why is the flag not have white stripes on it at the Democrat convention? That's not right. Okay, well, some of this is a little bit ridiculous, but it looks like a communist flag. My son, he has an outfit that's like red and blue, and it looks like a North Korean flag to me. It's the communist version of the American flag. Is that what it is? I don't know. Why doesn't it have white? That's so weird. Is that Photoshop? Like, is it photoshopped? Is it taken out of context? I always got to be skeptical about it. That doesn't seem right to me. Well, I don't know. Well, I'll look at that later. You probably don't care for it right now here on this stream. That's the CFN flag? What is that? CFN flag. Is that actually a thing? And that doesn't return any results. Republican red and Democrat blue. Yeah, but when you at convention, you just have the flag. Everything is always just the flag. I don't know. It's kind of weird. The CDN flag. CDN flag. No. Canadian flag has white on it too. It would be like, imagine, if you will, for you Canadians, they're having convention and they replace the white with blue, I guess, on the Canadian flag. Why would you do that? It would never happen, right? Does that happen? I don't know. Kind of weird. Probably just some retard making a stupid decision. Usually how those sorts of things happen. Yellow. Donald Trump. People forget how divided our country was under Obama and Biden. The anger and hatred were unbelievable. They shouldn't be lecturing us. I'm here as your president because of them. Okay. That's an interesting... Because I don't think that the country is even half as divided back then as it is now. But he is right. If it was not for what is the word that we'll put? How divisive Obama was, there's no way that President Trump would have been able to be elected. No way. It was 100% a reactionary rejection of Obama. He's totally right. It's an interesting argument. I don't know if that's going to have a whole lot of effect on people. I think he should stick to, oh, hey, do you want to become Chicago and Portland? then vote Democrat. That's the message they should just hit over and over, because I think that's responsible for the 10-point swing. Okay, so coming up to yesterday's high now.
Winston's mom says the turtle carries the element of water and unifies the earth and water element, living in both environments. Turtle.
Oh.
Winston's mom says bots, maybe you need some turtles.
There you go. Nope, Avatar The Last Airbender. I'm telling you, when Avatar The Last Airbender comes out on Netflix, I say that's a buy opportunity for Netflix. Maybe not the best price to catch them at, but Avatar The Last Airbender is like the next Game of Thrones. I know that sounds silly to say, but that's what I think. It's that good. And if Netflix does a good job at it, it's going to be like Game of Thrones, except the whole family can watch. It's going to be good. All right. Oh, Babylon Bee is back on Twitter. I forgot that they got kicked off yesterday. Prodigal son kicked back out after old tweets surface. Russian Major General has died. 3 Russian servicemen injured after explosion in Syria. RAA writes Defense Ministry. We just bought some black masks. My 13-year-old is pumped. You're vacationing in Boylan? Ugh. Well, I tell you what. I've been trying to keep an eye on the treasuries here today. And I really cannot explain why they're moving the way that they are. It feels very random to me. I mean, it's in line with my technicals, but why that initial down at 9 o'clock Eastern time? Why up the rest of the day? Don't understand. There's got to be some significant, well, maybe not significant. You know, there must be a lot of factors involved in treasuries that normally aren't very significant. But because the volume overall in treasuries and everything is lower now, they're making a bigger difference. And I'm concerned that these are all going to be influences that I just have no ability to predict or understand. You know? Like, I would need a better news source that doesn't exist. Some treasury-specific news. You know? The CNBC of treasury interest rates. All right, well, guys. Yeah, we want to be involved in a riot? Okay. Oh, man, we didn't talk about this at all. I don't want to talk about it. Really, I think we need to bring it up, though. There was a man in Portland that he was at the protests participating, and he was leaving, and he saw somebody being attacked and robbed, a trans woman or whatever. And so he stopped to help, and then the crowd attacked him. So he ran and got back in his car, and then I guess the car crashed or something of that nature. They pulled him out of the car and beat him on the street. So then he thought that they had broken it up, and so he was just sitting there. And then a man came running up and kicked him in the head. So this video has been making the rounds, and it was very graphic. That's why I'm like thinking about it makes me mad. That because this is like attempted murder, man. You know, but the thing that I think is important about this and relevant to markets is like people are reacting to this one differently, like straight up. Even on Reddit, they couldn't contain it. On Reddit, on r/news, they locked the thread and deleted all of the messages saying that racists were out in full force. But if you go back and you read the posts, it's all just people posting more information about the incident and saying how awful it was that they kicked this man in the head. And he's in a hospital in a coma right now, I think. There was some rumor that he had died, but I don't think that was confirmed. I haven't heard anything about it since then. And like I said, he was a guy that was there participating in the riots, so he might be conciliatory towards them afterwards. I don't know. But I'm just noticing a turn in the way that these stories are going now. And you combine that with the CNN poll showing that there's been like a 10-point swing back towards Donald Trump. Yeah. There's the pressure point. If the rioting and so forth continues to be a focus going into the election, Donald Trump will win. Straight up. So that's why that I think is important for you guys. But like I said, I don't know. I don't want to get because it makes me feel angry. It really gets me. Ugh. Just kick a guy in the head. It's awful. Okay. I think I've said everything that there is to say about today. Reddit is dead, sure is. So what should we put in today's title? Shall we? We talked about a bunch of different things. A lot about gold and so forth. Yo, boss. Hey, Salim, where have you been all day? Well, what can we call it? Selling just for the heck of it. Tesla's move is insane. Let's put something about Tesla in here. Tesla gaps overnight. Indexes pull back off all-time highs. Oh, you've been asleep? Oh, it's okay, Salim. This week, this next 2 weeks, and these next 2 weeks only, you can do that. But after Labor Day, go time. Serious time after that, right? Rise of the Tesla religion. It's just so ridiculous. Like, you watch. Just because I have Tesla in my title, more people will watch this video. So if you're watching this video on replay, okay, and you see me talk, and you came here because you saw Tesla in the title, leave something in the comments about it so we can see how many people. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you, this ends poorly. At some point. I don't think probably today. I don't quite see the right conditions, but at some point, be careful out there. Stay profitable, friends.